She's the last fertile female of her kind. And now she's looking at me Sci-Fi, HFY Story. The station floated in silence between two dead stars. Its metal body was old, scratched by time and war, but it was still one of the most important meeting places in known space. Ships from many worlds were docked around it, their shapes strange and beautiful. Some were smooth and round, some were sharp like blades. One ship, plain and gray, carried humans. Eli stood near a wide glass wall looking out into the dark. He wore a simple uniform. He was not a soldier or a hero. He was a systems technician, sent with the human delegation to repair and monitor station networks. He had been to many stations before, but this one felt different. The air felt heavy, as if the walls were listening. Around him, aliens moved in slow lines. Some were tall and thin, some walked on four legs, others floated using soft lights under their bodies. Eli had learned not to stare. Still, he felt eyes on him. He turned slightly and noticed her. She stood near the far end of the hall, partly hidden by a group of guards. She was not tall, but she stood straight. Her skin was pale blue, smooth like stone touched by water. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the station lights. She wore a long robe that looked old, like it had been passed down for many generations. She was staring at him. At first, Eli thought it was a mistake. Aliens often looked at humans with curiosity. Humans were newer to the Alliance, still watched and judged, but this was different. Her stare was not curious. It was sharp, shocked, almost afraid. Eli shifted his weight. Her eyes did not move. A guard beside her noticed and stepped forward, blocking the view. The guard was broad and armored, carrying a weapon that hummed softly. The female did not resist, but just before she was guided away, her eyes met Eli's one last time. In that brief moment, something passed between them. Not words, not sound, just a feeling that made Eli's chest tighten. Later that cycle, the human delegation was called into a secure chamber. The room was round with a single table in the center. Light panels glowed softly above. Around the table sat representatives from several species. Some Eli recognized, others he did not. At the far end stood a woman in dark robes. Her name was Vara. She was an Alliance officer, known for her calm voice and cold eyes. Eli stood at the back with the other technicians. He was not supposed to speak. He was just there in case systems failed. Vara began to talk. "The reason for this meeting is classified," she said. "What is shared here must not leave this room." The room went quiet. She turned slightly and the doors opened. The blue-skinned female entered, guarded on both sides. She moved slowly, carefully, as if every step mattered. When she reached the table, she stopped. Her eyes moved across the room. When they found Eli, they froze. A low sound came from her throat, not a cry, not a word, a sound filled with emotion. Several representatives shifted in their seats. Vara raised a hand. "This is Luma," she said. "She is of the Avari." There was a soft reaction around the table. Some bowed their heads. Others looked away. "The Avari are one of the oldest species in the Alliance," Vara continued. "They have not produced a child in over 200 cycles." Eli felt a chill. Luma placed her hands on the table. Her fingers were long and thin. "I am the last," she said in careful Alliance speech. Her voice was soft, but it carried. "The last who can give life." Silence fell like a weight. One representative spoke. "That is not possible." The Avari line was declared closed. "It was wrong," Luma said. "I lived in hiding. My people protected me until they could no longer protect themselves." Vara nodded. "Recent scans confirm her claim. She is fertile." A murmur spread through the room. Another voice rose, sharp and angry. "Then why bring her here now?" Vara turned her head slightly. "Because we discovered something else." She pressed a control on the table. A projection appeared in the air. Symbols and charts spun slowly. "During routine scans," Vara said, "we found that Avari reproductive biology no longer responds to any known species." She paused. "Except one," The projection changed. Human DNA patterns appeared beside Avari markers. Lines connected them. Eli's heart began to pound. A representative laughed in disbelief. Humans? Impossible. They are too young, too unstable. The scans are clear, Vara replied. Human biology shows rare adaptive traits. Eyes turned toward the human side of the table. Eli felt exposed as if the light had moved only for him. Luma slowly turned her head. She looked directly at Eli. I felt it, she said quietly. When I saw him, my body reacted. It has been silent all my life, until now. The room erupted. Shouts filled the air. Some demanded more scans. Others accused humans of manipulation. Some spoke of balance and danger. Eli stood frozen. He wanted to disappear. A human official stood. This is madness. One man does not represent humanity. Vara raised her voice. This is not about one man, it is about survival, she looked at Eli. But he is the key. Security lights flashed along the walls. Eli's communicator buzzed. A private signal. He ignored it. Luma stepped away from the table. Guards tensed, but Vara nodded for them to stay back. Luma walked slowly toward Eli. Each step echoed. Eli swallowed. He had repaired engines under fire. He had floated in open space with only a thin suit. None of that compared to this moment. She stopped a few steps away. Up close, her eyes were deeper than he expected, old, full of loss. You are afraid, Luma said. Yes, Eli answered honestly. So am I, she said, but fear does not change truth. She raised one hand, not touching him, just close enough that he could feel warmth. My people are gone, she said. Our cities are dust, our songs are memories. If I fail, we end. Not with fire, not with war, just silence. Eli's throat tightened. I didn't choose this. I know, she said. Neither did I. An alarm sounded suddenly. Red lights filled the room. Vara turned sharply. What is happening? A voice came over the system. Unauthorized movement detected. Multiple groups. The doors shook as something struck them from outside. Someone is trying to take her, a guard shouted. Another voice yelled, or kill her. Chaos exploded. Guards moved fast, forming a wall around Luma. Representatives rushed for exits. The room filled with noise and fear. Vara grabbed a device and spoke quickly. Lock the human technician down. Eli felt hands grab his arms. What? He shouted. I didn't do anything. This is not punishment, Vara said sharply. It is protection. The door burst inward. Smoke poured in. Through the haze, Eli saw figures moving fast, wearing dark armor with no markings. Weapons fired. Light flashed. Luma cried out as a blast hit the floor near her. Without thinking, Eli broke free and ran forward. He grabbed Luma's arm and pulled her down behind the table as another blast tore through the air above them. She looked at him, shocked. You should not be here, she said. Neither should they, Eli replied. The station shook as explosions echoed outside the room. Vara shouted orders, her calm gone. Security forces pushed back the attackers, but it was clear this was planned. Someone did not want the Avari saved. Someone did not want humans involved. As alarms wailed and the station trembled, Eli realized something with terrifying clarity. His life was no longer his own, and the future of an entire species now depended on a man who never wanted to matter at all. The alarms did not stop when the attackers were pushed back. They only changed tone, becoming deeper and slower, like a warning heartbeat inside the station. Smoke hung in the air, and the smell of burned metal filled the chamber. Eli sat on the floor with his back against the table. Luma was beside him, her breathing unsteady but controlled. Guards surrounded them now, weapons raised, eyes scanning every doorway. Vara stepped forward, her face tight. Get them out, now. They were moved fast through narrow corridors. Eli barely had time to think. His mind kept returning to one truth that felt unreal. He was important now, not because of rank or skill, but because of what he was. They reached a secured transport tube. The doors sealed behind them with a heavy sound. Inside the small capsule, only 4 people stood. Eli, Luma, Vara, and a human officer named Ross, tall and quiet with gray hair and tired eyes. The capsule began to move. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Eli broke the silence. "Who were they?" Vara answered without looking at him. "A shadow group, old, patient. They believe extinction is order." "That's insane," Eli said. "Why let a species die when it can be saved?" "Because saving one changes balance," Ross said quietly. "Power shifts scare those already in control." Luma looked down at her hands. "My people begged the council for help many times. They said we were finished, that helping us would weaken others." The capsule slowed and stopped. The doors opened into a guarded hangar. A human ship waited. It was not large, but it was solid, built for speed, not beauty. Vara turned to Eli. "You will be placed under human protection. Full lockdown, no outside contact." Eli frowned. "Like a prisoner." "Like a target," Vara corrected. He looked at Luma. "What about her?" "She comes too," Vara said. "Separating you would be a mistake." Luma met Eli's eyes. "Where you go, I go," she said simply. They boarded the ship. As soon as the doors sealed, the engines roared to life. The station fell away behind them, shrinking into the dark. Eli sat strapped into a seat, staring at the metal floor. His hands were shaking now that the danger had passed. Ross sat across from him. "You okay?" Eli laughed softly. "No, not even close." Ross nodded. "Fair." The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. The stars stretched and vanished. Time lost meaning. When they arrived, Eli expected another station. Instead, he saw a planet, blue and green, calm, peaceful. "This is Haven," Ross said. "Human research world off the maps." The ship landed smoothly. They were taken underground into a secure facility. White walls, soft lights. Quiet halls. Eli was given a small room, simple bed, table, no windows. A moment later, Luma was escorted into the room. The guard stepped outside and sealed the door. For the first time since meeting, they were alone. Neither spoke at first. Finally, Luma sat on the edge of the bed. "I am sorry," she said. "Your life has been broken because of me." Eli shook his head. "It was broken the moment I saw you staring at me." She tilted her head slightly. "You do not resent me." "I don't even understand this," he replied. "But I won't pretend I don't feel it. Something happened when we met." Luma closed her eyes. "In my kind, we call it the awakening. It has not happened in generations." There was a soft knock at the door. A human woman entered. Her name was Myra. She wore a scientist's coat and carried a tablet. "Sorry to interrupt," she said gently, "but we need to run tests, both of you." The tests lasted hours. Scans, blood samples, questions. Eli answered as best he could. Luma endured everything without complaint, though Eli could see the strain in her eyes. Finally, Myra leaned back, stunned. "This changes everything," she whispered. "What?" Eli asked. Myra looked at them both. "Human genetics are adaptive in a way we never fully understood. Your species survived near extinction multiple times. Your bodies learned to change, to bond, to endure." "And," Eli pressed, "and her biology responds to that adaptability, not just physically, chemically, neurologically." Luma's voice was quiet. "You mean it is not only survival, it is connection?" Myra nodded. "Yes." Eli felt his chest tighten. "So what happens now?" Before Myra could answer, the lights flickered. A loud impact shook the facility. Alarms blared again. Ross's voice came over the system. "We've been breached," Myra cursed under her breath. "They found us already." Luma stood. "They will not stop." Eli clenched his fists. "Then neither will we." Guards rushed in and pulled them apart. Eli was dragged down one corridor, Luma down another. "No," Eli shouted. "Don't separate us." "It's temporary," Ross yelled. "Trust us." But as Eli was pushed into a secure room, fear wrapped around him. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Then the wall across from him lit up. A live feed. Luma was on the screen, surrounded by armed figures in dark armor. A tall alien stepped forward. His voice was cold. The experiment ends now, he said. The last fertile female will be removed. Luma lifted her head. Her eyes were calm. You are afraid, she said, because humans remind you that extinction is a choice. The figure raised his weapon. Eli slammed his fists against the wall, screaming. The screen went black, and in the silence that followed, Eli understood one terrible thing. This was no longer about science. It was about war. The screen went dark, but Eli could still see Luma's face in his mind. Calm, unafraid. That frightened him more than the weapons pointed at her. He pounded the wall again until his hands hurt. "Open it," he shouted. "Open the door." No answer came. The room was small and bright, meant to calm, not to hold a man whose world was falling apart. Eli slid down to the floor, breathing hard. He forced himself to think. Panic would not help Luma. Panic never helped anyone. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. Ross stepped inside, his face tense. "She's alive." Eli jumped to his feet. "Where is she?" "They took her," Ross said. "Not off the planet, underground." Eli stared at him. "You let them take her." Ross's voice dropped. "We didn't have a choice. They used Alliance codes. Old ones, half our defenses shut down before we could react." Eli clenched his jaw. "So what now?" Ross looked at him for a long moment. "Now we stop hiding." They moved fast. Eli was given a new suit, darker, stronger than his old uniform. It fit tight, like it was made to keep him alive in hell. He followed Ross through corridors he had never seen before. Haven was deeper than he thought. They entered a command room filled with screens. Humans stood everywhere, focused, silent. At the center stood a tall man with a scar across his cheek. His name was Hale. Hale turned when Eli entered. His eyes were sharp but not cruel. "So you're the one they want," he said. "I didn't ask for this," Eli replied. "Neither did Earth," Hale said. "But here we are." A screen lit up, showing underground tunnels. Armed figures moved through them. "That group calls itself the Balance Hand," Hale said. "They believe the universe must stay as it is. Weak species die. Strong ones rule quietly." "And humans?" Eli asked. Hale's mouth curved slightly. "They never planned for us." Another screen showed Luma, bound but standing tall. Her guards watched her carefully, keeping their distance. "They're afraid of her," Eli said. "They should be," Hale answered. "She is proof that their order is a lie." Eli stepped closer to the screen. "We have to get her back." Hale nodded. "We will, but understand this. Once we move, there's no going back. The Alliance will know humans chose a side." Eli didn't hesitate. "Then choose." Hale gave a short nod. "Prepare the strike team." As soldiers moved, Ross leaned close to Eli. "You don't have to come." "Yes, I do," Eli said. "She didn't face this alone. I won't either." Deep underground, Luma stood in a stone chamber carved from the planet itself. The air was cold. The walls hummed with hidden machines. The leader of the Balance Hand stood before her. His name was Kor. "You are calm," Kor said. "Most would beg." "My people begged once," Luma replied. "It did not save them." Kor circled her slowly. "Your existence disrupts balance. You should never have lived." "And yet," she said, "here I am." He stopped in front of her. "Humans are not special. They will abandon you when this costs too much." Luma met his gaze. "You do not understand humans," Kor laughed softly. "We understand them well. They are violent, emotional, unstable." "Yes," Luma said, "and when pushed they refuse to accept endings." An explosion shook the chamber. Lights flickered. Weapons were raised. Another blast hit closer. Dust fell from the ceiling. Kor's expression changed. They came faster than expected. The wall behind him shattered. Smoke poured in. Human soldiers surged through the breach, moving with sharp control. Weapons fired, not wildly but with purpose. Eli ran behind them, heart pounding. "Luma," he shouted. She turned at the sound of his voice. Her eyes widened. "Eli," relief crossed her face, quickly replaced by concern. "You should not be here." "Too late," he said, cutting her restraints with shaking hands. Kor roared in anger and charged. Hale stepped forward and fired. The blast hit Kor squarely, throwing him back against the wall. The chamber fell silent except for alarms. Eli pulled Luma close. "Can you walk?" "Yes," she said. "I am stronger than I look." They ran. As they escaped through collapsing tunnels, Luma glanced at Eli. "You came." "I told you," he said. "I'm not running from this." They reached the surface just as Alliance ships appeared in the sky. Too many. Hale looked up. "They're calling this an act of war." Eli looked at Luma. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Do not be. My people died because no one fought. Today, someone did." They boarded a transport as blasts lit the sky. As Haven burned above them, Eli knew one truth had been sealed. Humanity had chosen compassion over fear. And the universe would never be the same again. The transport shuddered as it left Haven's orbit, leaving a haze of fire and smoke behind. Eli sat beside Luma, still breathing heavily, but her eyes were calm. She looked at him as if she could see the weight in his mind and knew every thought. "They will not stop," Eli said quietly. "They never do," Luma replied. "But neither will we." Hale's voice came over the comm. "We are heading to the Alliance capital. It is the only place they can be forced to acknowledge her survival, but it will not be easy. The Council does not like surprises." Eli's stomach tightened. "You mean we are going to their city, their headquarters, that place that declared my life meaningless?" "Yes," Hale said simply, "and we will go together." The next cycle passed in tense silence. Eli and Luma sat in the cabin, watching the stars stretch as the transport moved faster than light. No one spoke much. Sometimes Myra checked on them. Sometimes Ross quietly updated Hale's orders, but mostly it was stillness, the kind that presses on the chest, reminding you that danger is everywhere. Finally, they arrived at the capital, a massive station orbiting a gas giant, metal black and gold under the light of its sun. Ships from all corners of the Alliance were docked or in formation. The Council's presence was heavy, its gaze invisible but felt in every corridor. The transport docked quietly. Eli and Luma were escorted down long hallways, the floors polished like glass. Every step echoed, and with each echo, Eli could feel the Council's eyes watching, judging. They were brought into the central chamber. Towering ceilings, walls covered with light panels displaying the history of the Alliance. Council members sat on raised platforms, silent and still. Their expressions were carefully neutral. At the front, Kor stood again, alive though badly wounded from the Haven attack. His armor was scratched, his pride worse. "You should not have come," he said, voice low. "Do you understand what you have done? You have challenged centuries of law." Eli's hands were clenched. "We challenged cruelty," he said. "We saved life, that is not a crime." A council member, thin and tall with gray skin and sharp eyes, spoke. "You do not understand. Species extinction is not cruelty, it is balance. Intervention changes everything. Humans are young, you think you know survival, but you cannot see the consequences." Luma stepped forward. Her pale blue skin reflected the soft light. "I am alive," she said. "Not because of your balance, but because someone chose hope. That choice does not destroy the Alliance, it strengthens it. A life preserved is never weakness. You cannot silence what is alive." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some members leaned forward. Others whispered in corners. Kor snarled. "You will pay for this insolence. You bring shame to every system you touch." Eli took a step forward. "I do not care about your laws anymore. I care about what is right. My people, and now hers, will not watch life die in silence." The chamber grew tense. The council seemed frozen. Then a network screen flickered. Myra's voice came through. "Council, this is a broadcast to every sector. The forbidden law, the one that declares some species unworthy, is being exposed. You cannot hide it. The universe will see." Gasps filled the room. Screens around the chamber lit up, showing documents, records, and testimony. Every species could see what had been done in secrecy. Some council members shouted. Others tried to cut the broadcast, but the momentum was unstoppable. Across the Alliance, species began to question the rules. Rebellion sparked in pockets where enforcement was weakest. Kor roared, stepping toward Luma. "End this now, or she dies." Eli raised his voice. "You do not control life." He took a step forward, his fear replaced by determination. "She lives, and we will fight if you try to stop us." In that moment, Alliance guards began to move. Some toward Kor, others toward council members who resisted. Ships in orbit shifted as species prepared to defend the choice humanity had made. Luma touched Eli's arm lightly. "Thank you," she said, "for not letting me face this alone." He looked at her. "I will never let you face anything alone." Kor's last chance ended with him restrained, his threats echoing but meaningless. The council, seeing the uprising and the truth exposed, had no choice. They voted reluctantly to protect the Avari and abolish the forbidden law. Silence followed. Then murmurs of relief, awe, and fear spread throughout the chamber. Life, not rules, had triumphed. Eli felt exhaustion wash over him, but also a strange sense of peace. He looked at Luma. Her gaze no longer held desperation. It held hope, strength, and something else, trust. Outside, ships began to shift allegiance. Across the Alliance, species realized that survival did not require submission, only courage. And humanity, once seen as young and weak, was now a symbol that even the smallest choice could echo through the stars. As Eli and Luma left the chamber, side by side, he realized the truth. Not power, not fear, not control, but life itself was the greatest strength. And for the first time, he understood what it meant to be human in a universe that often demanded obedience. The future was uncertain. The alliance was fractured. But for Luma, for her species, and for all who had witnessed courage, hope was alive. And that hope would not fade. Eli looked at Luma one last time before stepping onto the transport. She smiled, faint but real. No words were needed. Their fight was not over, but they had survived the hardest trial yet. For the first time in centuries, the Avari had a future. And humanity had proven that even in a galaxy ruled by rules and fear, compassion could win. The transport drifted through the cold black of space, stars streaking past as if time itself had bent around them. Eli sat beside Luma, watching her face in the soft cabin light. The last cycle had been chaotic, but the air now held something different, calm, fragile, but real. The council had fallen in line, the forbidden law abolished, and Luma's life was safe. Yet Eli knew the battle had only shifted, not ended. Hale entered the cabin, his scarred face serious. The council may have agreed today, but factions remain. Some still see humans as dangerous, others as threats to the old order. We have to prepare. Eli nodded. So we keep fighting. Not for war, Hale said. For choice. For life, that is the difference. Luma reached for Eli's hand, her pale blue skin cool against his. We survived because you chose to act, not because rules allowed it. That is what matters now. He held her hand tightly. Then we continue, together. Their transport moved closer to the new assembly station orbiting a neutral star. Species from across the Alliance were arriving, drawn by the news. Ships of all shapes and sizes glided in, some cautious, others proud. The galaxy was watching. As they docked, Eli noticed small signs of rebellion, ships marked with symbols of long-forgotten species, crews whispering hope and defiance. The Alliance was changing. Not instantly, but slowly, inevitably. They were escorted into a massive chamber, larger and brighter than any council hall. Representatives crowded in, speaking softly at first, then louder as they recognized each other. The air buzzed with tension and expectation. At the front, a new council had formed. Older members were replaced by those who had seen the broadcast, those who had witnessed courage, those who understood that life was never a commodity to be controlled. Eli and Luma stood before them. Hale stepped back, giving them space. Luma's voice carried, soft but firm. I am alive, not because I am strong or because laws protected me, but because someone chose to act. My people were silent for too long. Their songs, their memories, their very existence almost ended. That choice is now yours. Protect life, not order. Choose hope, not fear. The chamber was silent, absorbing every word. Representatives shifted, looked at each other, and for the first time humanity's example became a lesson, not a threat. One representative, a tall alien with green-tinted skin, finally spoke. If this is true, if humans can act where laws fail, then perhaps there is a new path, one where survival is not dictated by fear. Another nodded. We must change, or extinction will not be limited to one species. We will all face the same silence. Kor was not present. His defeat and capture had sent a clear message. No one dared oppose life openly. Eli felt exhaustion settling into his bones, but also a strange warmth. For centuries, species had obeyed rules written to protect control, not life. Now, that control was broken. And the universe was watching humans not as conquerors but as protectors. Luma squeezed his hand. "You stayed," she said, "even when it was easier to run. That makes you different. That makes your species different." Eli smiled faintly. "I didn't have a choice. Not really." Together, they walked through the hall as the assembly began its new session. Screens displayed records of the old law, now open to all. Leaders argued, debated, and some even cried. But every word was tempered by the reality of what had happened. Life had won. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Ships moved in formations that had once meant control and dominance. Now they carried messages of hope. The galaxy was listening. Later, Eli and Luma stood on a balcony of the assembly station, looking at the cosmos. Quiet settled around them, different from the tension and fear of the past cycles. "You saved them," Luma said softly, almost to herself. "Not just my people, you saved hope." Eli shook his head. "We saved it together. You reminded me what matters." "You reminded everyone what matters." She smiled, and for the first time in centuries her expression was free of fear and burden. It was a smile of possibility. "I will not fail you," he said. "You won't," she replied, "because failure is no longer allowed. Not when life is worth fighting for." They watched as fleets of ships slowly turned away from fear toward cooperation. Across the alliance, species that had once hidden now raised their voices. Orders that had silenced life were overturned. A new era was beginning. Eli realized something as he looked at her face, pale blue under the stars. The story of one species, survival, had changed the story of many. Humanity's choice had echoed farther than he ever imagined. And as Luma looked at him again, not in desperation but in hope, he understood the truth he had been fighting toward all along. Survival was not the strongest, nor the smartest. Survival belonged to those who chose to act, to protect, to care. Together they turned from the balcony and walked back into the assembly. The galaxy awaited their next choice. Life, fragile and beautiful, was no longer silent. And humanity, standing beside the last of the Avari, had proven that even in the vast, indifferent universe, courage and compassion could shape the future. For Luma, for her people, for all who would follow, hope had returned. And that hope would never be forgotten.